Take a deep breath. Let's hear a story about Roger, the orange tabby cat, who once dreamed of becoming a dog. In a cozy little cottage with a white picket fence and windows that caught the golden afternoon light, Lived Roger, an orange tabby cat with striking emerald eyes. His fur was soft as silk, the color of autumn leaves, and felt wonderfully warm against his owner Emma's skin whenever he curled up in her lap. The cottage was nestled at the edge of a peaceful neighborhood where the scent of freshly cut grass and blooming flowers drifted through open windows on gentle summer breezes. Roger loved his comfortable life, spending hours stretched out on sunlit windowsills, feeling the warmth seep into his bones and listening to the melodic chirping of birds outside. His favorite spot was a plush blue cushion by the bay window in the living room, where dappled light created dancing patterns across the hardwood floor throughout the day. Emma had created a perfect home for him, with corners to hide in, shelves to climb, and an abundance of toys that made soft, satisfying crinkles when he batted them across the floor. Each day followed a pleasant rhythm. Breakfast from his ceramic bowl painted with little fish, naps in various sunspots that moved across the house, and evening cuddles with Emma as they both unwound from their day. The sound of Emma's heartbeat as she held him close was like a gentle lullaby, and the vibrations from his own purring created a soothing harmony that often sent them both into peaceful dreams. Nothing could be more perfect than this life of leisure and love, where every need was met with gentle care. The neighborhood where they lived was filled with other pets, mostly dogs of various sizes and breeds, who would pass by their front yard on walks with their owners. Roger would watch them from his window perch, observing their excited bounces and wagging tails with mild feline disdain. The distant sounds of barking and playful growls would reach his sensitive ears, but he never paid them much mind, content in his quiet superiority and dignified way of being. But everything changed one rainy Tuesday afternoon, when Emma was watching videos on her tablet with Roger nestled beside her on the sofa. The rain created a soothing patter against the windows, a natural white noise that made the cottage feel even cozier and more secure. Emma was watching a compilation of rescue dogs performing heroic deeds, pulling children from rivers, alerting families to fires, comforting hospital patients, and Roger found himself unusually captivated by these canine acts of bravery. That night, as moonlight filtered through gauzy curtains and cast a silver glow across the bedroom, Roger couldn't sleep despite the rhythmic sound of rainfall on the roof and Emma's gentle breathing beside him. His mind was filled with images of those noble dogs, their proud stances and the joy on their owners' faces as they performed their good deeds. The soft bed beneath him seemed less satisfying somehow, the quiet of the night less peaceful, as thoughts tumbled through his feline brain. Morning arrived with gentle rays of sunshine breaking through scattered clouds, birds resuming their cheerful songs outside, and Roger awakening with an unexpected sense of purpose stirring in his chest. He stretched his lithe body, feeling each muscle extend pleasantly, his claws instinctively extending and retracting as he prepared for a day unlike any other in his pampered life. Today would be different. Today, Roger had decided, he would begin his transformation into the noble creature he now aspired to be. Emma noticed something different about Roger during breakfast. The way he sat more alertly beside his food bowl, how his eyes followed her movements with unusual intensity rather than his typical sleepy indifference. The morning light caught in his whiskers as he tilted his head, seeming to study her as if seeing her for the first time, or perhaps seeing himself differently in relation to her. His tail swished with new energy, creating a soft, sweeping sound against the kitchen tile. After Emma left for work, Roger began his self-imposed canine training regimen, starting with his attempt to master the enthusiastic greeting that dogs performed when their owners returned home. He practiced bounding across the living room, trying to capture that uniquely canine energy that seemed so different from his usual graceful feline movements. The sensation of deliberately making his body move in these new ways was strange, but somehow invigorating, like stretching muscles that had never been used. The afternoon sun created warm patches on the carpet that Roger deliberately ignored, fighting his natural instinct to curl up and nap, convinced that real dogs didn't spend their days sleeping as cats did. Instead, he tried to maintain vigilance by the front window, watching for potential dangers or delivery people to bark at, though he wasn't quite sure what barking would entail for him yet. The effort of staying awake made his eyelids heavy, and the rhythmic ticking of the clock on the wall nearly lulled him to sleep several times. Next came Roger's attempt at barking. He sat in front of the hallway mirror, watching his reflection as he tried to transform his natural meow into something more intimidating and dog-like. The sounds that emerged were awkward hybrids, somewhat embarrassing even with no one there to witness his efforts. But he persisted, feeling the strange vibrations in his throat as he experimented with different vocalizations. His own bewildered expression in the mirror made the whole scene rather comical. By mid-afternoon, Roger had moved on to retrieving practice in the backyard, attempting to chase and return a small twig he had found near the garden. The grass felt cool and slightly damp between his paw pads, a pleasant sensation as he bounded across the yard with unusual enthusiasm. Birds watched curiously from nearby trees, their gentle warbling seeming almost like encouragement to the confused cat below them as he sniffed at the stick, batted it around, but ultimately found it distinctly uninteresting. In his final training attempt of the day, Roger dug his claws into the soft earth of Emma's flower garden, trying to replicate the digging behavior he had observed in neighborhood dogs. The soil felt rich and cool, releasing earthy aromas that tickled his sensitive nose, but after a few moments of half-hearted scratching that resulted in a broken claw, he abandoned the effort with a disgruntled flick of his tail. The late afternoon sun cast long golden shadows across the garden as Roger sat licking his paw, reconsidering his canine aspirations. Emma returned home that evening to find her garden slightly disturbed, and Roger unusually excited to see her, attempting some strange bouncing movement that was neither fully cat nor dog. She laughed softly as she scooped him up, the familiar weight of him in her arms bringing comfort after a long day, his fur soft against her cheek as she nuzzled him. "What have you been up to today, my silly boy?" she whispered, her voice creating gentle vibrations that Roger could feel against his body as she held him close. Over the next few days, Roger continued his efforts with determined persistence, each morning waking with renewed purpose as birds sang their dawn chorus outside the window and dew glistened on the grass. His training sessions became a regular routine, attempting to bark, trying to fetch objects, practicing enthusiastic greetings, and even attempting to wag his tail in the distinctly unhinged way that dogs did. The physical exertion of these activities was actually quite pleasant, creating a satisfying tiredness at the end of each day. The neighborhood dogs began to notice Roger's strange behavior as he spent more time in the front yard, visible through the picket fence as they passed on their daily walks. Instead of his usual aloof posture watching from the window, Roger would now approach the fence, attempting to mimic their movements and sounds. The gentle golden retriever next door would pause, her head tilted in confusion, soft brown eyes watching with kind bewilderment as the cat tried to play fetch with himself. Word spread through the neighborhood about the strange cat who thought he was a dog, and gradually more people began to walk their pets past Emma's cottage, curious to witness this phenomenon for themselves. Roger, delighted by the attention, would perform his best dog impressions with increasing confidence, despite the fact that they were still unmistakably feline in execution. The sound of amused laughter and coos of delight became a regular feature of their previously quiet street. One particularly warm afternoon, as sunlight filtered through the leaves of the maple tree in the front yard, creating dappled patterns on the grass, the mail carrier approached with a package for Emma. Roger, seeing this as his chance to prove his guard dog abilities, rushed to the fence and produced his most ambitious bark-meow hybrid yet, startling both himself and the mail carrier. Instead of being frightened, however, the woman burst into delighted laughter, the sound floating like music through the peaceful neighborhood. "You must be Roger," she said, her voice warm and gentle as she knelt down to offer her hand through the fence. "Everyone at the post office has heard about you." Roger, momentarily forgetting his canine aspirations, rubbed against her fingers with instinctive feline pleasure, the contact sending pleasant tingles along his spine. The contradiction didn't occur to him until later, when he realized he had responded as a cat rather than maintaining his dog persona. That evening, as the setting sun painted the sky in watercolor hues of pink and gold, Emma sat on the porch swing with Roger in her lap, gently stroking his fur as they both enjoyed the cool evening breeze, carrying the sweet scent of nearby jasmine. "You know," she murmured, her voice blending with the rhythmic creaking of the swing chains, "I've been hearing some interesting stories about you from the neighbors. Something about my cat thinking he's a dog?" Roger shifted uncomfortably under her knowing gaze, his ears flattening slightly in embarrassment as her fingers continued their soothing path through his fur, occasionally scratching that perfect spot behind his ears that made him melt with pleasure. Emma's soft laughter vibrated through her chest against him, not mocking but filled with genuine affection that wrapped around him like a warm blanket on a cold night. "Roger, you know, I love you exactly as you are, don't you?" That night, as moonlight spilled across the bedroom floor and the gentle symphony of cricket songs drifted through the partially open window, Roger lay awake, contemplating Emma's words and his own motivations. The cool night air carried distant scents from the neighborhood, blooming flowers, freshly cut grass, and the distinct odors of both cats and dogs, all coexisting in their different ways. His bed felt especially comfortable, conforming perfectly to his body in that way that only a cat's favorite sleeping spot can. The next morning brought a surprise visitor, Spencer, the golden retriever from next door, whose owner had brought him over specifically to meet Roger properly. The large dog's presence in their living room was somewhat overwhelming, his enthusiastic energy filling the space as his tail swept back and forth, creating gentle wafts of air that carried his distinctive scent. Roger instinctively retreated to a higher perch, watching cautiously from the bookshelf as the humans chatted below. Something unexpected happened as Roger observed Spencer's behavior. Instead of feeling intimidated or jealous, he found himself appreciating the dog's genuine nature, the simple joy he took in existing, and the straightforward way he expressed his emotions. There was beauty in Spencer's dogness just as there was in Roger's catness, each with their own particular way of moving through the world that suited them perfectly. This realization settled over Roger like a soft blanket, bringing comfort and a new kind of contentment. Spencer, sensing Roger's contemplation, sat down beneath the bookshelf and looked up with gentle brown eyes that seemed to hold wisdom beyond words. "You know," Spencer's owner said to Emma, her voice carrying the gentle cadence of someone sharing an important insight, "Spencer has always been fascinated by cats." "I think he sometimes wishes he could leap and balance the way they do, or fit into small, cozy spaces." The two women laughed softly, the sound harmonizing with the ticking clock and birds chirping outside. Later that day, after their visitors had left, Roger sat in his favorite sunbeam, feeling its warmth penetrate deep into his fur and muscles as he considered this new perspective. The house was quiet except for the occasional creak of settling wood and distant neighborhood sounds that formed a familiar backdrop to his thoughts. Perhaps everyone occasionally admired qualities they saw in others, wondering what it might be like to embody different traits or abilities. This didn't mean there was anything wrong with being exactly who they were. The following weekend brought unexpected excitement to their peaceful neighborhood. A local newspaper reporter had heard about the cat who wanted to be a dog and came to write a feature story about Roger. The morning was perfect, with clear blue skies and a gentle breeze that carried the scent of Emma's blooming rose bush across the yard. Roger, somewhat overwhelmed by the attention, but secretly pleased, performed his best dog impressions while the photographer captured his efforts. When the story was published, accompanied by charming photos of Roger mid-bark and attempting to fetch, it spread quickly beyond their small community. The gentle humor and underlying message about self-acceptance resonated with readers near and far, creating a small but dedicated following of admirers. Emma began receiving letters from people sharing stories about their own pets' quirky behaviors, each envelope bringing new connections to their previously quiet lives. Most surprising of all was the response from local dogs and their owners, who began organizing weekly play dates in the park, specifically so their pets could spend time with Roger. The first gathering was held on a perfect spring day, with sunshine warming the grass and a light breeze carrying the mingled scents of flowers, humans, and animals through the air. Roger, initially nervous about being surrounded by so many large, energetic canines, was touched to discover how gently they treated him. Spencer the Golden Retriever became Roger's particular champion, always positioning himself protectively near the cat and modeling behaviors that helped the other dogs understand how to interact with their feline visitor. The sound of panting dogs, laughing humans, and birds singing in nearby trees created a joyful soundtrack to these gatherings, filling Roger's sensitive ears with a symphony of friendship and acceptance that was better than any sound he had known before. As weeks passed and seasons gradually shifted, bringing subtle changes to the quality of light filtering through leaves and the temperature of breezes against fur, Roger found himself settling into a new identity. Not as a cat pretending to be a dog, but as himself a unique being who had created a bridge between two traditionally separate worlds. The realization brought a depth of contentment that spread through him like the warmth of the perfect sunbeam, reaching every corner of his being. Emma noticed a change in Roger, the way he carried himself with new confidence that was neither strictly feline nor canine, but entirely his own. On quiet evenings when they sat together on the porch swing, his purring would mingle with the gentle creaking of the chains and distant barking of neighborhood dogs returning home for dinner, creating a perfect soundtrack to accompany the spectacular painting of colors across the sky as the sun made its daily descent. "You know what I love most about you, Roger?" Emma whispered one such evening, her fingers finding that perfect spot behind his ears that made him close his eyes in bliss, her touch sending waves of comfort through his entire body. "You remind us all that the boundaries we create are often just in our minds. You're not a cat who wants to be a dog anymore. You're Roger, who is perfectly, completely himself." Her words settled over him like a warm blanket, fitting perfectly. The neighborhood dogs had learned much from Roger as well, many of them developing new appreciation for feline qualities like finding perfect sunbeams, the meditative practice of leisurely grooming, and the art of comfortable lounging. Spencer had become particularly skilled at identifying the coziest spots in his home, and his owner often found him contentedly curled in patches of sunlight, his expression remarkably cat-like in its peaceful satisfaction with simply being. The local animal shelter, inspired by Roger's story, began a new program pairing cats and dogs as companions, finding that many animals previously considered unadoptable thrived with a friend from the other side. Each success story brought smiles to the staff and visitors, creating ripples of joy that spread outward into the community like gentle waves across a still pond, touching lives in ways no one could have anticipated from Roger's simple identity crisis. Roger's favorite time now was twilight, when the world was bathed in soft golden light and long shadows stretched across the yard like reaching fingers. He would sit on the porch railing, feeling the cooling evening air ruffle his fur as neighborhood dogs and their owners passed by on their evening walks, each greeting him with recognition and respect that warmed him from the inside more thoroughly than any sunbeam could. Children in the neighborhood had created a fan club dedicated to Roger, complete with hand-drawn membership cards and weekly meetings where they shared stories and drawings of the famous cat. The sound of their laughter as they gathered under the big oak tree in the park was like music, their innocence and acceptance a lesson to the adults who watched them embrace differences with such natural ease. Roger would sometimes attend these gatherings, basking in the gentle touches of small hands and the simple joy of being celebrated for being himself. As Roger curled up in bed with Emma that night, the moon casting silver stripes across the quilt through partially closed blinds, he felt a gratitude so profound it seemed to expand beyond his physical body. The gentle rhythm of Emma's breathing, the distant hooting of an owl in the woods behind their home, and the occasional sleepy sigh from Spencer, next door, whose dog bed had been moved closer to their shared fence by mutual agreement, created a perfect lullaby. His journey had begun with dissatisfaction, with wanting to be something other than what he was, but had led him to a place of deeper appreciation for his true nature and the unique gifts he brought to the world just by being Roger. As sleep began to settle over him like a gentle fog, bringing heaviness to his limbs and slowing his thoughts, he realized that the happiness he had been seeking had always been available to him, not in becoming someone else, but in fully embracing who he already was, with all his contradictions and peculiarities. And so Roger drifted into dreams surrounded by the profound comfort of self-acceptance and the knowledge that he had, in his own small way, made the world a better place, not by being the best dog he could be, but by being the best Roger possible. The rhythmic sound of his own purring, perfectly in harmony with Emma's breathing, formed a soothing soundtrack that carried him deeper into peaceful sleep, where cats and dogs and humans all played together in endless sunshine, each celebrated for exactly who they were.